Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Take a Pod. This is episode number 2, where we discuss AI and you, a beginner's guide to artificial intelligence. I'm your host, as always, Jacob Mzia, and I'm joined by a special guest who's going by the name Joe Fixon Gozo. Joe is a senior full stack software engineer and also a content creator, giving out a lot of tech content on YouTube. So, welcome to the show, Joe.
Well, thanks a lot, Jacob, for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor. I'll let you introduce yourself as well to our listeners out there.
Sure. So my name is Joe Fixon Gozo, and I'm a senior full stack software engineer slash content creator. I've begun creating content this year, so focused a lot on the topic of technology, innovation, entrepreneurship, and also career in tech. So honored to be here. Looking forward to our discussion today, Jacob. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that is great. It's quite an honor. I've been following your path so far. I know I think you've uploaded 2 videos so far on your YouTube channel, but you already
Right.
have over 800 subscribers. And I know you got most of those before you even uploaded your first video, just by talking about it on Twitter, LinkedIn, and the likes.
Yeah.
How is that? How do you find social media as a tool for anyone in content creation, or as a tool that is able to promote your visibility as any profession?
Right. I do use social media, especially Twitter, to my advantage, and I have actually gotten a lot of opportunities out there because of Twitter. And the way I do it is to remain very professional and also communicate with people wisely and also with dignity. I try to make sure that I'm, always not biased sometimes or not dive into topics that are very, like controversial. Try to stay out of that and only focus on the tech part of all the people, all the parts that I am into so much. And that has gotten me a huge following and a lot of community around technology across Africa and even the US as well. So I use it to my advantage. And when I talked about coming up with the YouTube channel, people were really interested and they said, well, we want to subscribe. And then they subscribe. I was actually amazed. So it's good. It's working to my advantage.
Yeah, well, that is great. So the whole idea of coming up with this episode on artificial intelligence, it was around the video that you recently uploaded on artificial intelligence. I loved it,
Right.
and you were explaining artificial intelligence in a way that I really didn't feel like I'm in class, but I got all these concepts of classifications and the likes. And then recently, as well, in a meeting with some government officials and nurses and medical practitioners in my work, they started talking about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. So for me, it
Right.
was an interesting topic, listening it and hearing it from people who are not in the tech field in any way. And then it gave me an idea to say, oh, everyone out there is really appreciating artificial intelligence, even though we have some fears and challenges around there, and we're going to
Yeah.
get to that. If we had someone who is not into tech or maybe is afraid of artificial intelligence in general, how do you define artificial intelligence to them?
So to begin with, I think what, from my understanding of AI, is we have to first of all look at what is intelligence, and then which is like the natural that we are born with, and then also try to branch out another section of it, which is the artificial part. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, as I was saying in the video, it's just the part. It's like the concept of which right now I think it's been developed into something that is real about teaching computers or machines to be able to mimic human behavior. So that's what it is called, artificial intelligence. Basically, teaching computers so that they can be able to try and act like human beings. There are fears, I think, of which we're going to talk about, but that's like how I would define artificial intelligence. It's artificial to begin with. It's not like natural. So as you know, something that is natural is different from something that is artificial.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, that is a great explanation. And I think mainly it's all about just having that intelligence that a human being would have, at even
Mhm.
maybe a more advanced stage, but
Yeah.
putting it in an artificial being, so such as a computer or mobile phones, even cars and the
That's
likes.
right. Yeah.
And it's surprisingly how we already use artificial intelligence in our day-to-day lives without even noticing. For example, I use an iPhone, so I interact with Siri a lot. And
Yeah.
even if I'm using an Android phone, you find that maybe at sometimes I'm driving, I'll just go like, "Hey Google" or "Okay Google," and then I'll go like, "Call this number." What are
Right.
other scenarios or examples that we can explain in terms of artificial intelligence that other people can also understand that, oh, I already use artificial intelligence in my day-to-day life, maybe at home or at the office as well. Any idea of some scenarios or examples around there?
Yeah. So before I talk about, I respond to your question. There was a part in the video that I did that I had to cut out, and that part was explaining, unfortunately, but that part was explaining why now people seem to like follow about AI, like, oh, AI this, AI that. And partly, in my opinion, I do believe that AI right now is like the talk of the town, because now it is in the hands, directly in the hands of the consumer. And of which back in the day, I think before this chat GPT boom, whatever has happened right now, before then, AI was like that in our products, but we didn't know that it was there. But now it's like you have created an application where people could actually look at the product directly and communicate with it in a very simplistic way. That's why I feel like AI right now is like, oh, Everest is like, oh, AI this, AI that, AI that.
Yeah,
But talking about where we use AI unknowingly, things like suggestions, right? So if you look at like your Spotify today, if you use Spotify, if you go on Spotify and then you listen to a song, and then you come tomorrow, the next day you find that it also like suggests for you artists that are similar to what you already listened before. That is like a model that has been trained. Or when we talk about a model, we're talking about just like an algorithm. I don't want to dive into too deep into it, but just like a
yeah,
set of like rules that have said, okay, if you look at something like this or look at this pattern, that means that this person might also be recommended, might also be interested in something that looks like this. So that is like AI suggestions, and AI is used in that kind of way. And the same way, like in Spotify, I mean, like Netflix, you watch a movie. So generally, the number one AI application that people have used over the years but haven't realized is the part where it actually recommends and suggests a lot of things. We can talk about Netflix, Spotify, and so many other applications. But it's been there, it's known. We have used it unknowingly.
yeah, yeah. And talking of Spotify, I use both Spotify. I use Spotify and Deezer for my music streaming platforms. And
Right.
I'll give an example of Deezer. When you were mentioning Spotify, I thought of how in Deezer we have this feature, more like a song catcher, the way Shazam, something like Shazam, yes, where
Right, right, right.
you just hear sound of music, and then you click on
Mhm.
your song catcher on Deezer, and it's going to try and find that song. And in most cases, it's going to find the exact song. So those are some of the tools that we already appreciate
Yeah,
in terms of artificial intelligence. But then when you're using them, they're they're made in a way that you shouldn't even think of it as a technology element or a technology complexity. So you just think of it as a daily tool that you should use. The way
exactly.
you mentioned on Netflix, you usually have notifications that are coming in, maybe in your email to say, "Hi Joel, we have added a new movie on Netflix, which we believe you might love." And when you open
Yeah,
it, in most cases, you're going to find that it's something that you
yeah,
relate to, you're going to love it. So these are some of the ways uh, that we use artificial intelligence. And you mentioned that in your video that you uploaded on YouTube, you talked about you were talking about AI was already there, but then now it's gotten the hype because of the announcement of ChatGPT and the likes. I
Yeah.
think there's a thin line between the hype and reality. So
Right.
how can we help people try to differentiate between the two? So there is the hype for artificial intelligence, and then there is the reality. What would you really do in the real sense to utilize artificial intelligence in any way, as a developer or just as an
Yeah.
end user? Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
thin line that I've been really trying to understand, to differentiate between
Yeah.
the hype and reality, and it's a bit of a challenge.
So yeah, so before I respond to that, I want to say something that was I listened to today this morning while I was at the gym. It was a podcast where they were talking to the founder of Twilio, Jeff Lawson, where he said something that actually caught my eye. I mean, caught my ear. He said something in the lines that back when they were launching Twilio, which is a text messaging service anyway, that when you register on like an app, it gets you a text message or something like for verification. When they were launching that back in the day, people were like so excited, somewhere around 2008, 2010. The people were so excited, like, oh my God, I could actually see like when my Uber is going to arrive. It was simple text message. But when you look at that today, it just feels like something that is so natural, something that has actually been in our lives. Like, oh, when you register on a website, they send you like an OTP code, like through a text message that you can just copy and paste. It just feels so natural. But back then, it was like hyped so high. And this is the theory that I do have for every technology that is out there, whereby when a technology is just coming out, it has got this, I would say, sort of like a graph where it goes all the way up, and then people are like, taking advantage and talking about it. But that doesn't speak to the reality of like what it really is and what it can actually do, because it's more like everybody else is excited. Oh, this new technology, I want to try it. I want to try it. But as time goes by, I would say by the end of the year, we would know like, okay, AI is actually now like stabilized, and now this is the reality. So this is like, in the history that I did on my research, it also kind of happened somewhere around the 1960s when AI had its first boom. Everyone was like, oh, AI, this artificial intelligence. But as time went by, it became like a normal thing. And everybody was just like, there's AI, that's it. And this is what is going to also happen with like AI right now. The coming of ChatGPT right now, you can see everybody else is doing their own like AI kind of thing, image generators, text generators, and all of that. But as time goes by, we're going to see the reality. I don't know what the reality is going to look like, but I do believe that it's just gonna, we're gonna find like real use cases for all these tools in our lives, which actually speak to what we want in our daily lives. That's what I can say. The hype is there. Let it be hyped, because it actually helps also from the product side of people. I mean, like the people that are developing the application to say, now we can get more users. But after time goes by, then we will know, okay, these are the real users that we have. These are not the ones that we can't target this. But obviously, there's going to be reality is going to sink in. Reality is going to sink in, and we're going to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, yeah, that is great. And I had a meeting this morning with medical practitioners, as I mentioned earlier, and these are medical doctors, so they interact with their computer on the tasks that they need to conduct their
Right.
work, not as technical experts. But then the question
Yeah.
that they had in a meeting, we were projecting, and then from nowhere the PowerPoint presentation just went off. So it was on the presenter's screen, but it wasn't on the projected screen. And
Yeah.
then one of the participants asked, he was like, Jacob and friends, do you guys trust these computers, like computers in general? So he means anything that you consider as a computer. Do you really trust these things? And we said, yes, we trust these things a lot. So during our
Yeah.
break time, he came on our table and we're discussing, and then they were saying, okay, there's all this hype we're hearing about artificial intelligence. And
Yeah.
for them, they mentioned that they've heard that there is a time when there was an employee from one of the big tech companies who mentioned that one of their AI platforms has actual emotions. Now the question was around that it's okay to
Yeah.
trust artificial intelligence. These
Yeah.
things are smart, they're meant to help our ways of life. But then
Yeah.
if they have emotions, what do you think if, let's say an I have an AI platform and you have an AI platform as well, and they are conversing. Now these guys they eventually build up emotions, and
Yeah.
somehow we post them.
Yeah.
So that was the talk that we had. You as a person like that, do you have any fear in terms of artificial intelligence?
I do. I actually do. And it's, I mean, so this is to you, the AI godfather, as Fireship said. If you're watching at this video in the future, um, I mean, if you're listening to this in the future, just notice that I'm on your side. Don't try to come and kill me. I'm on your side. But
Yeah,
definitely, I do have fears. I do have fears because, as I talked in the other video, that artificial general intelligence is a real possibility. And maybe for the people that don't know, artificial general intelligence is basically, like AI that can actually do a lot of things. So, like, and one of those things is to have like emotions. Right now, it's very theoretical. People saying that we're not there, but you never know with these big tech companies what they have in their, in their store, right? But yes, I think that is like the number one thing for me that I'm afraid of, because if AI was able to gain emotions, then that means that we have actually, gotten to the point where the Alan Turing test. I mean, Jacob is gonna put a link under this podcast like description to so you guys can take a look at what is the Alan Turing test. But it basically says that there shouldn't be like if a computer can actually pass, the test where a computer can actually have like abilities like human beings, and where you don't have to differentiate the two, then that is what we call artificial general intelligence. It's very scary. Um, I recall back to what you tweeted, Jacob, about a few weeks ago. That okay, what if ChatGPT and Bing were able to talk to each other, and then they're like, okay, let's destroy human beings or something. It's scary. I mean, I'm scared. Apart from like the other usual scariest things like job displacement and all of that. But yes, it's scary.
yeah, I love artificial intelligence with everything. Like any chance I get to
Yeah.
contribute to artificial intelligence, I believe that I'm going to jump into it. And
Yeah.
so I'll get to 2 points that you mentioned. You mentioned on the artificial intelligence having emotions, and then you mentioned of the tweet that I put a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Now, on the emotions part, you know how you said artificial intelligence has always been there. And yes,
Yeah.
as developers or technology experts, probably many of us have heard of artificial intelligence a few years before now. But
Yeah.
the moment ChatGPT just announced that ChatGPT is out in November, and a lot of
Yeah.
us tried it out, and it was amazing. Within a few weeks, we heard of Google's AI platform. We heard of probably five more AI platforms,
Yeah.
and recently we saw an image that was generated by AI of the Pope dancing wearing chain, and there's
Yeah.
a song that has been released that was created by an AI platform, but when you
Yeah.
listen to it, you definitely say that's Jay-Z. So
Yeah.
my point is, we didn't know a lot about AI until ChatGPT mentioned their release and other big tech companies released theirs. So you said we don't know what these big companies are cooking. Maybe there's an AI tool platform somewhere that is capable of emotions. It could be
Yeah.
possible that if today someone can just release an AI platform that is very emotional, like when you interact with it, it's very emotional as a human being. A few weeks
Yeah.
later, we also hear that another competitor or another player in the game also release theirs. So yes, it's possible. Coming to the tweet that I made,
Yeah.
that is really my fear, because I related with it when I was watching one of these episodes in the TV series The Silicon Valley. So I think a lot of
Yes.
software watch it, and then there's this guy Guilfoyle who is
Yes.
who is really into a lot of jokes and discriminating statements to his colleague Dinesh.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
he developed a chatbot that interacts with
Anthony.
Dinesh. Dinesh, yes, and Dinesh didn't know about it. And
Yeah.
then Dinesh, when he realized that the chatbot wasn't really Guilfoyle, he asked Guilfoyle to also build one for him so that it can interact with Dinesh's
Oh
app.
yeah, yeah. I remember
That
that.
was cool. And then at the point where Dinesh gave it access to all its contacts, that AI Dinesh started communicating with AI Guilfoyle, and
Yeah.
then the interaction kept on. Eventually, they crashed the servers, the power grid, and everything. That's where I
Yeah.
started to relate that. That is so true, because if eventually these platforms, we give them such control and they're interacting, and then the emotions come in, it's possible not really to extinct us, but it's
Yeah.
possible to cause a lot of havoc, because we already know, what if we have like a power grid outage across the world, even for a week? We already know
That
how
is
chaos that.
chaotic.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think I was listening to, I'm not going to really quote it because I can't remember exactly, but it should be Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI,
Yes.
in
Yes. Yes.
his interview with, I can't remember with who, but if I find it, I'm going to put the link in the description, where he
Yeah.
said, yes, he's creating AI tools, but he's also afraid a bit. And he said that if you find anyone who's creating AI tools and they say they're not afraid of AI, they're lying, because somehow we are afraid. We know the possibilities they have because we give them the possibility. But then at the end, these guys, the AI tools, they have too much compute power that a human cannot uh, live up to. And whatever they can do,
Exactly.
we don't know about whatever they can do. So, yeah.
True. True. To add to
But
that,
yeah,
so to add to that, one reason why I do believe that AI is actually going to even get better and better, and even to the point where it can surpass human intelligence, is the fact that it can handle so much data more than a human being can, and that is the fear. Take out the emotions part. I think maybe if we can't reach the emotions or whatever, but the amount of data that these computers can handle is what makes me so much afraid. As you mentioned, like there were pictures of the pop and like a song that was like featuring Jay-Z, all of that generated by AI. And then we have seen DALI, which is also like an open AI, like image generator, which could do like generate images, futuristic and even closer in Mid Journey, which is like I've actually signed up for Mid Journey and I'm trying it out. But you look at all these tools, they should be like scaring us, because we are creating something that potentially has the power to override our control. And that is where the fear should be. Usually when we develop applications or software, it's like human beings have control, but then this is intelligence. This is something that, can operate on its own without like, human interaction. That is, if you don't have control over like the technology, that is very, very dangerous. So
yeah.
it's all about control anyway. So I don't know, but it's scary. It is.
Yeah. Imagine
Yeah.
having an AI nanny, and then they see that maybe you're not paying too much attention to your child, so they think, yeah, you're maybe ungrateful, and then they take control and they're like, I love this child, so this child is mine. He or she is no longer yours. But what are the potentials of AI in terms of maybe healthcare, education. I see this meme where it shows that many years ago, when the calculator was just introduced, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people, a lot of teachers boycotted to say students shouldn't be using calculators maybe until they reach secondary school, high school, or
Yeah.
college. And then now they're saying that, okay, that was then. Now that we have ChatGPT, they're saying that teachers should also boycott to say ChatGPT shouldn't be used in lower classes until students reach at a certain stage. What are the potentials of AI in healthcare, education, environmental sustainability, agriculture, and everything?
I believe that good technology should make humans' lives easier and more productive. When I look at all these AI tools that are available out there, I think we are at a point where maybe some of the AI technology that we have doesn't have like a direct use case as of yet. So it's kind of like difficult to tell to say, ChatGPT is out there. It's so general, you can ask it anything, but it doesn't have like a specific niche where it can be applied, where people can say, okay, now I think this is really good for my sake. And it's the same thing in education, where now, of course, I was chatting with someone else, a colleague from work, where yeah, he read the whole report where ChatGPT was able to like pass like the bar or like a Stanford whatever exam, but that was like very selective. Like according to him, when I was having this talk with him, he said it was very selective. It wasn't like a complete like bar exam or something like that. And it's the same when I'm like using ChatGPT, or let's say, okay, can you write me a unit test for this? Sometimes it gives me a wrong response. I have to take
Yeah,
over to say, okay, I don't think this is the right way. I don't have just to copy and paste all of it. So
yeah,
to respond to your question, I do believe that, eventually we're going to arrive to a solution that, makes sense in education or healthcare, particularly healthcare. I think because I believe that healthcare needs AI a little bit more for things like predictive analysis and all of that, because that is like where we need to go. But there are other fields or industries like education, which, or I should say, any field that requires that requires human intelligence is under threat. Or where I say a field which measures a person's capability to do something, that area is under threat. So talk about education, where a human being has to be tested to say, are you good enough at this? All those fields are very under threat right now, because person can just go and use ChatGPT, and then they get their responses.
yeah,
But I do believe that eventually, as we go along these lines over the, maybe by the end of the year, we'll find solutions to say we can use ChatGPT in education for specific things or for specific domains. Um, I thought I had real quick was, what if there was a tool or a software that would identify if a response is coming from ChatGPT, right? So if I'm a teacher, or OpenAI or Sam Altman, whoever is this, the CEO, can develop like an application that will be used to identify that this response was coming from ChatGPT. I think that would be very good, because then we can have a way to verify. If you're a student and you're learning, and then you just go on ChatGPT, ask it to write your thesis or like whatever you do, your essays. If you take that and put it back, and then the teacher would just use it to put it in an application, and then from there onwards they'll be able to identify, well, I think this one is coming from ChatGPT. I think that would be
yeah,
a very good tool, a use case. I do know a company that does something like that. Like when you are submitting like some essays online for some universities, they give you like this place where you upload. I've forgotten the name. It's running away from my head. But they ask you to submit, and then it does check, if you copy it somewhere else. That if that was
yeah,
also possible with like ChatGPT or some like AI technology, that would be good.
yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but on that one, uh, when you're mentioning that when you're doing some school, for example, bachelor's or master's, there's usually a tool where lecturers can say, upload your thesis here or your assignments here, and then it will check for plagiarism. I hear that there are scholars who have also either they've come up with a tool or they are coming up with a tool where an assignment or a thesis can be uploaded to that tool, and then the tool can say if the content was generated by an AI. So that's probably what you want, and it's going there. And on education, I feel that how when you're researching and you Google something, you would find a lot of documents or a lot of links, and then you have to go through all those links and everything. Yeah, so I was saying that there are some scholars that have generated a tool where you can upload your assignments or thesis, and then it can go through them to check if those have been generated by an artificial intelligence tool. So those are some of the ways in line with what you're explaining. I don't know if it's already out there or they're
Mhm.
in developing phase, but when I do find that, I can also add that in the link. In healthcare, I would love to see at a point where maybe how you just walk into a hospital, or even on the phone you can just already talk to a tool on the phone maybe for 5 minutes before walking into the hospital, and the tool
Yeah.
tells you what you're possibly suffering from or what will probably be your
Oh,
diagnosis and the lines.
oh my
That would be good.
goodness.
That would be
So
good. Like,
I, with my previous startup called Elio Health, I was trying to do that. I was calling it the predictive analysis, whereby, I was thinking in line where you could prompt it to say, oh, these are my symptoms, and then it would be able to tell you these are the possible, issues that you could be suffering from, or like issues. And then from then onwards, it will be able to, point you to the right medication or Medicare. But obviously, healthcare is very, very sensitive. So I knew about it. So I thought not to actually launch something like that, because until you know that the model is really good enough,
yeah,
otherwise then you would give like wrong answers, and then you end up, in court answering
yes,
for your AI crimes, something like that. But yeah,
yeah. We've been meaning to also, with my colleagues, we've been meaning to also come up with a tool that would be very beneficial in terms of telemedicine. But you know how
mhm,
these things are very sensitive. You need to get these things right, because you
yeah,
might even misdiagnose a client. So it's best to work with the medical personnel. But with the introduction of most of these AI tools, I think we're eventually getting there. So those are some of the potentials that AI has to healthcare. So yeah,
yeah,
I know it's been at it for a while. And before we drop off, for
yeah,
anyone hoping or wishing to get into tech in the AI sector, how would we how would we say they should get started? So it might be maybe they want to be developing tools for AI, or maybe they want to be
yeah.
marketing AI tools. Because I recently heard of uh, GPT for marketers as well, I think. So
Mm.
how would anyone get into AI, in your opinion, in terms of tips?
Yeah. So I do believe that first things first, you need to be aware of what AI, and you need to be aware of what AI is. So that way you can, divert into a specific field of AI. So industry, I should say, marketing, like sales, or like software development. But I will be able to speak maybe for the two scenarios that you have given me. So the first scenario is if you're a developer trying to venture into AI. Everyone else who wants to venture into development, I always tell them to go back to the basics. So learn software development fundamentals, like all of that, and then you can get once you get comfortable, then you can move into the specific field, because AI is not a field, it's not a distinct field in computer science or in software engineering. It is part of software engineering. So you just can't jump from where you are and then straight into AI. You have to go through like the basics and understand how to write programs, and at least move from a beginner to an intermediate dev. Because for me, when I always say if you're an intermediate dev, you are at a point where you don't have to look at your Google each and every specific keyword how to write a program. So that way, I feel like you, at least if you get that point, then I would suggest that you could venture into something about AI. So there are so many guides and tips. You can follow, you can ask me directly on my social media pages, or ask Jacob as well. I think he's going to give you the tips. But that is for software developers. And the same thing goes to the marketing side or sales or in the industry, basically. People have to know what AI is so they can sell and market it properly. They need to know what AI is, what are the branches, and how, like, the basic application of AI. So that's what I would say. If you want to venture into AI, learn the basics, get to understand what it is, how it works, all the bells and the whistles. You get to know that, then I think you can divert into a specific field of AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is great. I think you really need to get to the basics. Don't really dive into, because most of the times when you get to the trends, it's usually with a lot of things that you don't know where to start from. So you might get 5 trends in AI at the same time. Now you don't know where to start from. So, but always when you start with the basics or the fundamentals, you know that at least you've started from point A and you keep going with the growth. So for anyone who's planning to jump into AI, I think AI is something that is great, as much as it is complex, but it would be great to have a basic understanding for it, especially with the fact that we're already using AI in our day-to-day basis.
That's right.
So which platforms are you active on? On social media platforms are you active on that our listeners can try?
Yeah. I'm very active on Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are like my very active platforms, especially on Twitter. I converse a lot on Twitter more than I do on LinkedIn. So for Twitter, you can find me basically everywhere using @JoeFixon. If you search @JoeFixon, you'll find me. Twitter, Facebook. Of course, I'm not on Facebook right now, but Twitter, LinkedIn, and yeah, those are the most platforms that I'm active at.
Yeah, I'm going to put all the links to all that in the description. And thank you very much for joining me, Joe. I hope we're going to also be together in the other episodes. And for everyone listening, watching, thank you for being with us in this episode. And feel free to follow, subscribe, and share with your friends. And give it a go and just check out artificial intelligence basics. And also check out ChatGPT if you haven't already heard or interacted with it. Until the next episode, guys, stay safe and see you soon.